Hey Ottawa, this is Annalee Rice with Royal LePage Performance Realty in Ottawa, Ontario, and here is your Monday market snapshot for Monday, June 5th, 2023. Every week I provide the stats and insight into the current real estate market in Ottawa, and this week, because we're just into June, I've got all the charts and details for the trends from May 2023. So make sure you stick around till the end. Our first look is at the citywide stats, and what we see is that the number of active listings jumped up again. We went up by 60. This was following a dip that we saw 2 weeks ago due to the May long weekend. After last week's drop in the new condo listings, we actually see a jump back up this week. Sales were also up this week, recovering from the dip that followed the holidays. This graph here shows us the week's active listings in green and the sales in red and conditional sales in orange. And we see that the number of active listings is up, the sales are up a little bit, and the conditionally sold properties is just down just a tiny bit. The number of new listings are up again from last week and nearly back to what we saw before the May long weekend. We had 516 properties that were listed this week, and 82% of those, or 421 properties, were new to the market listings, and 95 properties, or 18%, were relisted properties. Those ratios are staying roughly the same as they have been over the spring. Sales this week are also up, not up to the same level we were at in throughout most of May, but it's increased from what we saw last week. We're again seeing an uptick in the number of homes selling without any conditions. This week we're at 34%. It's the same as it was 4 weeks ago. Of the properties that sold this week, 28% of them were on the market for 7 days or less, and 77% of the homes sold this week were on for 30 days or less. Of the homes that sold within 7 days of being listed, 59% of those sold with no conditions. Okay, so now let's zoom in. We're going to see these different areas of the city and look at the stats for those areas. First off, the central urban area, central urban region, we're seeing a drop in the number of active listings for detached homes counter to the citywide stats. And for condos, we see an increase in both active listings and the number of sales. In Canada and Stittsville, we see only a slight increase in detached listings, but a significant drop in the number of townhomes that are listed for sale. And there was a moderate increase in sales of townhomes this week. This is creating a very tight market for the townhome sales and purchases in Canada and Stittsville. In Barrhaven and Riverside South, we're seeing an increase in listings for across the property types, actually, and the increase in detached homes is not insignificant, but it may be partially due to a drop in sales this week. One thing I see of potential note is how few detached homes there are listed in Barrhaven. So with 85 total with 17 increase this week, they were really quite low in the number of active listings in the past weeks. You got to remember that Barrhaven actually has about the same population as Orleans, and it's only about 20% less population as Canada and Stittsville. So with 85 listings, the market is pretty tight in Barrhaven and Riverside South. Sales for condos jumped up this week back up to a more normal number. Last week there was only one sale. And in Orleans, we see a slight increase in the active listings across the property types, set against the decreased sales for freehold properties and an increase in sales for the condominiums. So if you compare back to the Barrhaven one with only 85 listings, Orleans, on the other hand, has 105 right now. So they should be somewhat similar. Here are the detailed statistics for the detached homes across the city. And then we have the same thing for the townhomes, and we see that continued not many townhomes listed for sale across the city, fair number of sales every week, and the days on market is quite low. And for condominiums, we've got the complete numbers here. Okay, so these are the month-to-month stats. So everything from this point forward is a little bit more trends and then also monthly stats. So what we can see here, the average sale price for April and May, and then the percent change. So last week they were all pretty positive in percent changes, and this month they're all pretty flat. The one exception being semi-detached homes, and you'll see that in the next chart that the prices are a lot more volatile for that. Here, this chart is the running total for the average sale price by property type. And unlike the rest of the stats that I give week to week, I do separate out the semi-detached, which is the blue line. And then I also separate out the two types of condos, or the two main types of condos. We've got the condo townhomes in green line and the condo apartments in purple. So with the semi-detached, with the blue line, you'll see that they're a lot more up down, and it's because there's just so many fewer sales of semi-detached, and the variety of semi-detached homes it varies quite a lot. So you could have $1 million semis in the central urban area and $500,000 semis out in the suburbs. These charts show us how close to the list price the average home is selling. Throughout the spring, we have seen that the sale prices are coming closer to the asking or list prices. That's with the rise. With detached homes, we're still at about creeping up to 99% of the close price to the original list price. The townhomes, with that very tight market, we're up to about 100%, and condominiums have been climbing as well, and they sit at about 98.5%. This stat is useful as long as the homes are being listed at or near their desired sale price and they're not being listed abnormally high or low. Currently, we are still seeing most properties being listed realistically, but it was back in 2022 when we were seeing like 114% of close price to original list price was when everything was being listed abnormally low. These charts show us the number of months of inventory that we have within our market. So months of inventory shows us how long it would take to sell all of the remaining actively listed properties at the current sales rate if no new homes were added to the market. It's affected by sales volume as much as inventory levels. And obviously it's a bit of a false calculation as there's always a segment of the actively listed properties that just aren't going to sell for whatever reason. Our months of inventory has been dropping throughout the spring season because our inventory isn't climbing at the same rate as the number of sales that has been picking up. So right now we're at about a month and a half for detached homes, 1 month for townhomes, and just 1.2 months for condominiums. And finally, this chart shows us the current breakdown of detached homes. This is all detached homes based on the price range. That's the lighter blue bars. And then also it shows the cumulative days on market for those homes, which are the darker blue bars. The red line shows us the average cumulative days on market for the city. So you see that it's at 57 days across the detached home market. And you'll see that in all of the lower priced segments of the sales, they're all below that mark. It's the ones that are high price that are sitting on the market for a lot longer. And then for the properties that are listed, the average list price right now is 1.183 million for citywide, but you see that the vast majority of the properties are actually listed below that price. So this chart really shows us what averages are and how the numbers can be skewed by properties that are either very highly priced or have been on the market for a long time. Thank you for making it to the end of this update. It was a bit of a longer one. And if you find these updates interesting or helpful, please make sure to like it or follow along on YouTube. If you ever have any questions that you'd like answered, please let me know and I will address those in future updates. Have a great week.